Welcome back to our channel. Today we will discuss the situation in the war and especially at the Strait of Hormuz with retired Brigadier General Ufuk Uras. Welcome, General.
Thank you, Colonel.
General, with the failure of talks, Trump declared a naval blockade at Hormuz Strait. First of all, I want to ask you, why have the talks failed? And the second one, what is the purpose of U.S. naval blockade?
The talks have failed in the first round in Islamabad, Pakistan. Now the parties are talking about second round of talks. Maybe this weekend we may see the second round of talks in Islamabad with the participation of Iran and US delegations with the facilitation of Pakistan authorities. Before the talks, Trump stated that the 10-point proposal of Iran was a text which could be the basis for negotiations. And it seems that many of the proposals have been agreed. There are only 2 points, which are nuclear issue and the other one, the control of Strait of Hormuz. For the nuclear issue, the Iranian position was very clear, in my opinion, because Iran is seeking an agreement which is similar or close to the agreement of 2015, the JCPOA. In this agreement, Iran agreed the inspection of International Atomic Energy Agency authorities for 10 years, I guess, and the uranium enrichment was agreed for about 3.67%. Now, what we learned from the negotiations, this time United States is seeking 20-year moratorium of Iran's nuclear program. This is not acceptable to Iran. And second one, they want the handover of the enriched uranium to Americans. That is not also, I think, acceptable to Iran. There is no any figure mentioned with regards to the percentage of the enriched uranium. So with this approach, we see that the United States has maximized their demands because in 2015, it was 10 years. Now they are talking about 20 years. And they want all the enriched uranium, which they were not able to take it by military operation. There was a rescue operation for the rescue of the F-15 pilots. There are some claims that they also have carried out an operation to the Isfahan nuclear site to capture the enriched uranium from Iran, which allegedly have failed. So militarily, they are not able to take this uranium, but they want Iran to hand it over to the Americans. I remember before the war, Iran might have agreed to hand over the enriched uranium to Russians.
Yes.
A couple of days ago, Russia also stated once again that they can take the enriched uranium from Iran if Iran agrees.
Wow.
So we don't know whether this issue will be resolved in the second round of talks. The other one, and the most important one, is the Strait of Hormuz. United States now started a blockade, naval blockade. The purpose of this blockade is to prevent Iran exporting oil to other countries.
Is this blockade, General, legal under international law? What do you think?
The war is not legal. The United States has not asked for any UN security resolution, and it was not a self-defense issue. It was a war of choice. US and Israel attacked Iran, and this is an aggression, and it is a clear violation of international law. In this illegitimate and illegal war, how would a blockade will be legal?
Legal.
There are several conditions for a blockade to be legal theoretically. One of the conditions is to respect to the neutral shipping rights of the countries. I mean, if any country trades with any party, that doesn't mean that they are supporting a belligerent country. I mean, if they, for example, support a belligerent country by providing weapons, it is very likely that this country can also be seen as a belligerent, and the blockade will be then legal to prevent such an action. But for oil trade, this is also a controversial issue. I don't think that preventing oil transport or oil trade is legal in this context. There is also a contradiction with the US implementations. When the war started, the United States lifted the sanctions imposed on Iran for the oil trade for 30 days. And this 30th day is not over yet. On the one side, you allow Iran to send oil to ease the international markets. But on the other side, you implement a blockade to prevent oil exports of Iran. That brings a contradiction, and the most important point is related to China, because most of the oil is sent to China, and China has continued to import oil from Iran during the war and is still importing oil from Iran. It is the most critical issue how the US forces will approach to Chinese ships.
How will the US Navy enforce this blockade?
The blockades are usually implemented by some interdictions. They can board on the ships if they suspect. And the US has stated here that they only want to implement blockade to the ships which go to Iranian ports or which come from Iranian ports. They probably will stop those ships. They will maybe quarantine those ships in an area, and they may also carry out a boarding operation on the ships, either by
You mean
using
the
helicopter.
Iranian ship?
Yes, to the suspected ships, Iranian ships or Chinese ships. This is the theoretical or technical part of it, but I don't believe that they would do it for the Chinese ships. If they do it, it will create a big tension. Yesterday, the defense minister of China made a very harsh statement about the United States blockade. He said this is very dangerous. He also said that this is very irresponsible. This statement was the harshest statement made by China against the United States to date. It is not very likely that the United States will stop or will board on Chinese ships. And the defense minister of China added also that he would send Navy ships to escort the commercial ships of China throughout their movement into ports of Iran and from the ports of Iran to China.
Here, do you think this blockade will work? And what will happen if the blockade fails?
The blockade seems like working at this moment because Iran is not responding to it. The reason why Iran does not respond to it, because now the parties are in a ceasefire period, and there will be negotiations in the weekend between US and China, US and Iran. But if they are not able to reach an agreement in the second round of talks, and if ceasefire ends, then it is for sure that Iran will respond to the blockade. And this will result in the resumption of conflict again. And if conflict erupts once again, there are two major options for the United States. One is a limited operation in the Strait of Hormuz, and the second one is full-scale war. For the limited operation, they want to send Navy ships into the strait. They are expecting their allies to contribute to this operation with their Navy ships. This was rejected. They are insisting on this. I don't know whether Europeans will send any ship, but it seems like that the Europeans are preparing for a European operation. United Kingdom is leading now a new initiative. There has been several talks in London with the participation of Europeans and also countries from the Gulf region. Their intention is to establish a new system after the war, not during the war. They are trying to create a maritime force. First, they want to agree on the issue with Iran, but in case this fails, the Europeans, under the leadership of maybe United Kingdom, will try to enforce a system into the Gulf, but they are waiting for the end of the war. They don't want to take risk, and they don't want to join a US operation. And in case they carry out an operation on their own, they don't want to include United States. So this is a separate initiative. I don't think that the Europeans will join the so-called US possible operation. And the United States, if they enter into the Strait of Hormuz as a limited operation, definitely Iran will retaliate, and in that case, US may not be successful to establish control inside the strait.
We are again coming to the scenarios. When we think about all the situation in the Strait of Hormuz, what are the possible scenarios for the future of the war?
There are two major scenarios. The first scenario is reaching a peace agreement, and the second scenario is resumption of conflict. Reaching of an agreement doesn't seem very likely. There is still some possibility. We don't know the sincerity of the United States. If they are sincere about reaching an agreement, I think it will be possible, but the United States may not be ready for a peace. You know, they are under the pressure of Israel. In the first round of talks, can you imagine? There's a US delegation in the discussions, in the negotiations, and the US delegation is making a phone call to Netanyahu. So this is very strange. That is clearly indicating that Netanyahu is also manipulating or controlling the negotiations in one way or another. So if the US delegation acts for the national interests of the United States, they may reach an agreement. If not, it will be not possible for the parties to reach an agreement. The second part, if an agreement is not reached, then the conflict will resume. In that case, as I said, the first option is to carry out a limited operation by the United States by using its maritime forces. They are asking for support from European countries and its allies, and from Asia, like Japan, South Korea. It is not likely that those countries will join an operation under the US leadership in the Strait of Hormuz because it is a risky operation, and Iran will definitely retaliate to such a maritime operation inside the Strait of Hormuz. The second possibility is a full-scale war, which means Israel may continue its air operations to the mainland of Iran. They may continue to target key personnel, key high-ranking senior officials of Iran. US may concentrate to the Strait of Hormuz. They may additionally use their air force and also may carry out a land operation to islands or to the shores of Iran. But we discussed many times this, and this is a very risky operation, and definitely they will suffer heavy losses. For this reason, this is not what the United States wants as such an operation. They want to end the war, but they are not getting close to the demands of Iran. It seems like US is now in a very tightened position. They cannot develop an exit strategy from the war, and there is also a risk for a rising tension between China and the United States. One of the main objectives of the United States is to limit China's access to the region and to restrict China's expansion of influence to the Middle East. United States has a new strategic design, and in this strategic design, United States wants to maintain its hegemony over the natural resources in the world, especially energy resources. One of the reasons of this war is based on this approach. However, United States was not successful to reach its objectives. They thought that it would be very easy for them to overthrow the regime. They planned to bring a pro-American puppet government to the Iran so that they would restrict the access of China to the Gulf region. But it didn't work, and now they are losing their influence and their credibility, their reputation. If the war ends, maybe the Gulf states may develop a new partnership with other countries because US is no longer a trustworthy party in the region. The US failed to provide security to the Gulf countries. The United States wants to reverse the situation to the time of before the war. There is a high degree of uncertainty, both with regards to the negotiations and also to the possible military operations.
All right. What are the Iran's options to respond these new attacks?
Iran has some capabilities. As you know, Iran has anti-ship missiles, ballistic missiles, drones, fast boats, mines. Iran will use all these capabilities and may disrupt US operations, may cause serious damage and inflict heavy casualties to the United States in the Gulf region. Iran has the upper hand based on the geographical advantage and based on Iran's resilience and asymmetric capabilities. In the past, an aircraft carrier was a very important capability, but today we have seen how vulnerable an aircraft carrier to drones or missiles. The warfare is changing, and the asymmetric capabilities that Iran has allows Iran to carry out very effective military operations. So Iran has the capability to disrupt or even defeat a possible US military operation in the Strait of Hormuz.
We know that, General, there is another sides, China and Russia. How will China and Russia be affected from this situation? Do you think they will intervene into the situation?
First, let me talk about Russia. Russia is very quiet. The Russian authorities do not make statements very often about the situation on the ground in the Strait of Hormuz. Uh, Russia is satisfied with the ongoing war because Russia is able to sell its oil for a very high price. And Russia is also happy that US is losing its credibility, losing its deterrence in the region. Russia supports Iran, continues to provide support, both military support and intelligence support.
General, I have a question. It is claimed that Russia sent S-500 missiles to Iran. What do you think about this?
Uh, I, I I haven't heard anything about this. This may be possible. You know, everything can be possible in a war. The biggest disadvantage of Iran in the war was its limited air defense system, especially long-range missile and air defense systems. They had S-300s. I don't know whether they had S-400s before. They wanted to purchase S-400 from Russia. Probably they have procured S-400 before, but if this is true, it's a big risk for the US as well. I mean, it's a very sophisticated air defense system, and I think if it is used against F-35s, it can be very effective. One of
Mhm.
the objectives of Russia by sending this to Iran can be the test of S-500 systems in a real combat situation. In terms of China, it is more important because China is dependent on the oil resources of the Gulf region and especially the oil of Iran. China wants to continue its trade, and if there is a disruption to this, it may lead to a rising tension between the United States and China. China also knows that this war targeted indirectly China, and China does not want to allow United States to disrupt China's expanding economic influence to the region. So China sees this as a serious issue and will continue to support Iran in any way. I mean, China has provided financial support to Iran, will continue to import oil, and China is also providing military support to Iran by providing some materials which are used in the production of missiles. Might have also provided additional air defense systems. There are some reports that China has provided some air defense systems during the ceasefire period to Iran.
We learned from the media that the US and the China presidents will meet in the middle of May. And maybe USA is trying to save time until that meeting. What do you think?
The meeting was postponed. I mean, it was initially planned in April, but now it is going to be taking place on the mid-May. I think this will be a very important meeting. There will be two possible situations. Either a peace is agreed when Trump meets with Chinese leader, or the war will be going on. If a peace is agreed, it will be much easier for both sides to talk. But if war goes on during the meeting, then this will be very difficult for the United States because China will have the upper hand. China sees the decline of the United States in every field, and the gap between the United States and China is getting closer militarily. China is able to manufacture many capabilities very fast. They have much more Navy ships than the United States now. Militarily, China will be superior to United States if the trend goes in this way. And last week, the Chinese leader met with the opposition leader of Taiwan. The opposition leader, I guess, wants to unify with China. And China wants the unification of Taiwan without an armed conflict. And this may be possible in the future. Concerning the Strait of Hormuz, China will try to impose its position, and China wants to expand even its influence in the region and will reject any US hegemony over the Strait of Hormuz and the Gulf.
General, thank you for your very comprehensive and detailed analysis.
My pleasure. Thank you.
Thank you very much for watching us. Hope to see you again on our next program.